to make sure that we've got great resources, relevant, timely information available to us. So I really encourage you, if you're not already connected to the Chamber, make sure that you're connecting to them on their website, on their Facebook page, that the information is coming out as fast and furious, and they're working very hard to make sure that it gets updated. So check it regularly and check it often. So thank you to Kelly and the South Tampa Chamber of Commerce.
It is our pleasure to be here to serve you and the businesses of South Tampa. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And so I also want to recognize that we are all in potentially a different place. And we also don't know how long this is going to last, right? So for purposes of today, what I want you to think about is this being sort of a 90-day journey, a 90-day planning. What do we have to do now in our business to make sure that we're not only surviving, but that we're ready to thrive when what I'm calling is the comeback, because we know it's coming, right? Right now we're in a season or in a chapter, but we know we will get through this. So this is really about thinking about the next 90 days and what has to be true and what actions do you need to take. I also recognize each of our businesses are likely in one of three places. You might be in what I'm calling maybe the shutdown or the shutdown for now. This is where maybe you're not able to do any business, but it's the time to really prepare for when we come out the other side. And during our little networking here, the last 10 minutes, I was able to hear some of you are doing just that. Kelly, you talked about what you're doing at the Chamber. And it's really around what can you do to get your business ready, actually get it better and bigger and meaner than before we went into this. So we've got great opportunity there. Your business might also be in the second category that I'm calling the pivot, right? This is where you're still operating, you're still doing business, but you've got to think about what is different in my business. What do I have to shift and pivot, whether it be your product and services, whether it be how you're delivering, whether it be your marketing, really around pivoting so that you can continue to do business during this time. And then third, I would call it booming. Frankly, I've got some clients who are growing faster and more than they ever thought imaginable. So think around, I've got some tech clients who are working really hard to make sure everyone's tech capable right now. I've got some Amazon resellers, right? Their business is really booming. So you're likely in a different place. And I think the important thing to note is we've got to think about all the information that we're getting, even the information that you're getting today, through the context of where you are in your business, where you are in your business, where you are in your mindset. So really it's important to bring that context. But no matter where your business is, it is about taking action and taking action now. So here's what I want you to do. Right now, I want you to make sure that you have a way to take notes. I'm going to be providing you with a lot of information, a lot of tips, and you're going to have some ahas, or what I call BFOs, blinding flashes of the obvious. And I want you to be able to jot those down, and I want you to circle those things that you think, oh, that's a great idea, that's something I need to come back to. Because as Kelly mentioned, my company is called, my business is called Action Coach. So I'm an action coach. I'm not a think about it coach. I'm not a I'll get to it later coach, particularly in times like this. So I really want you to be able to get off of this webinar and be clear on some actions you can take coming out of this so that you can survive. It's the actions that we take now, today, and frankly, every day now, that will truly make the difference of your survival and your ability to thrive on the other side. So with that, let's get started. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 11 critical steps that you must do now to survive and thrive in your business. So let's get started with the first, hopefully my screen will advance. Kelly, it doesn't seem to be letting me advance my screen. Oh, did that work?
Yes, it did.
Okay,
You
great.
can
Thanks.
see, yep, the top of it says 11 steps and then step 1.
Perfect. Step 1 is where we want to start. So step 1, be positive, be a leader, and plan through it. Here's the thing, panic and worry never gets us anywhere. It never helps. Now, what I'm not saying to you is that we don't all have some level of fear or uncertainty. That is happening across the board and in different realms and in different spans, right? I'm not talking about not feeling the fear or feeling the uncertainty, because that is where we are right now. But what I am suggesting is that as business leaders, as business owners, it's about finding our courage. Because courage isn't not having fear, but having courage is being able to work through the fear and still take action and still do what we need to do for our business, for our teams, and our community. So I just want you to reflect, where your energy is what your teams, your customers, your community, they're going to get that from you. So think about the energy that you're putting out there. And it's really our time to step up as leaders and be courageous and take the actions that we really need to take. And so I want you to focus on your vision and goals. Right before this happened, we had vision and goals for our business. And I'm going to suggest that you don't change those. Perhaps you had a plan that was going to get you to $1 million in revenue this year. I don't want you to change that vision or that goal. Now, you better bet we've got to think about different ways to get there now. But if you start to take your foot off the pedal, you will stop thinking and doing to make sure that you do everything you need to do in your business to continue to grow and thrive. To be clear on your vision and goals, it's more important now than ever that you go back and you remember why it is you went in business to begin with. How are you trying to serve your community? How are you trying to serve with your services and your products? Why did you want to have a business? Why did you want to build a team? It's more important now than ever to go back and really remember what those things were, and to come at it with passion and enthusiasm. People are looking for leaders. People are looking for someone to help us understand what's happening here, and to be someone that they can rely on. We have an obligation as business owners and leaders. And although we're in an unprecedented crisis, and I recognize it is unprecedented, we have got to still come together and with the passion and enthusiasm for our teams and our community. So it's really around even becoming stronger. How do we take the actions that we need to take? How do we step up in this unprecedented time by being clear with our teams, being clear with our customers? We've got to give people something to hold on to. We've got to give them something to move towards. And that's really about having a plan. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a plan a little bit later. But now, more than ever, it's important to get clarity on the plan. The truth is, you will plan and replan, but that's okay. It's about having a plan and really leading our people. So step 2 is really around change. And this is really around, it's changing your business model. Frankly, it's changing your mindset. It's shifting and pivoting right now in this environment. So we know we've got to change. The challenge right now is we don't know what to change or how to change it. And so at Action Coach, we use a change formula, and I've got it here. It's the first bullet. D times V plus F is greater than R. And so the D stands for, dissatisfaction. The D is for dissatisfaction. So in order to make change, we need to have a level of dissatisfaction with something in our life or in our business. And we also have to have vision. We have to have clarity around where we're going. So D times V plus F, which is our first steps, right? Then we have to know what first steps to take, has to be greater than resistance for us to make change. And so if you think about this really unique scenario that we're in now, is frankly, our resistance to change broadly and generally is very low. Why? We're being forced to change. We have no option. We must change. We've got certainly a high level of dissatisfaction. We don't know what's going on. We have fear, uncertainty, we have dissatisfaction. And we've got vision if you can keep that going for your business. What's not really clear is the first steps. What do we do? What steps do we take to be able to get through and thrive on the other side? So I want to talk about the first steps. Let's talk about what you need to do. One, like I said already, is get clear on that vision. Don't lose sight of your vision. Make sure that you own it and you're more connected to the vision now than you've ever been. What other things do you have to shift? What do you have to learn right now? A first step is, what do you have to learn right now to be able to make those shifts and make the changes in your business? And I want you to think about any pivot or shift that you have to make in the business. It's not going to be one silver bullet, or it's not going to be one big change that's going to get you to the other side. I want you to think about, what are all the things, call it 100 things that you can pivot in your business to get 1% better or 1% difference in the right direction. That's what it's going to take to really get you through this. And there is a lot of opportunity right now. There are people thriving. When you think about changing in your business model, this is going to be around changing perhaps the products and services that you deliver. What's the need in the marketplace? We know that there are thriving opportunities and there's marketability going on. So you need to think about, what are your products and services today? What resources do you have available, whether that be in people, whether that be in equipment, whether that be in your intellectual property? What are the things that you have available to you now that if you made a pivot or a shift could support the unique needs that are now happening in our world? And so think about, there are people thriving. How do you either create a new product, a shift in your product, or how do you maybe support people in the supply chain that are now providing other valuable resources and products in the marketplace? So this is really around thinking about leverage and scalability within your business. But you've really got to start to think differently about what you can do in your business now and in the future. And we know, there's some very clear things, even around virtual, right? Everything is virtual now. So how are you delivering and developing your services from a virtual standpoint? We've got to make changes to our business model. If we don't change, if we're not changing and growing, the old saying is, if you're not growing, you're dying. It's true more now than ever. So critical that you start to think about your business differently, and we start to shift your products, your delivery, even your team from the business model that you currently have. And one of the big things, as I mentioned, is virtual, right? Virtual is the new normal. So here's another example. Yes, we need to figure out the technology. Think about all the people who've been tech challenged or have been resistant to technology in the past. You can probably think of a couple of family members. You could probably think about a couple of clients or even team members or even yourself who've been resistant to technology. It is critical now that we move to the age of technology, that you are persistent with learning, understanding, implementing, making sure that your teams are all aware of and technology enabled to be able to move us in this new direction. This is all about human management. And when I talk about human management, now it's just different. It's still people, but now you're accessing people in different ways. So you really need to think about your communication. Human management now is around being clear on how you're communicating to your teams, to your customers, to your supply chain, to your stakeholders, to your community, right? And how are you doing that now in this new world of virtual? Our social distancing, it's not going to go away anytime soon. Assume we get through this even in the next 90 days, maybe sooner, maybe later. But we are going to be in a completely new normal. What we have experienced before is going to be completely different. And it's now, what you're building now for your business isn't going to go away. So you need to think about the communications with your team. How are you communicating? And we've got to think about communication in terms of we should be communicating, 6, 7, 8, 9 times more than we ever were before. And we need to think about the modalities in which we're communicating. We've got Zoom, we've got ways to see people. How often are you talking to people? How often are you talking to your team, to your clients? This is really around moving to this new normal of how we're interacting in this virtual world. And it's also about a level of sensitivity, right? People are feeling differently. Some people are feeling alone. It might resonate with you that potentially each day you're feeling a bit of a roller coaster. Your emotions and how you're feeling are changing dramatically, maybe hour by hour or day by day. I do think we're getting to a more stable opportunity with the news and information that's coming to us. I think the spike of the uncertainty and the fear is now sort of becoming a little bit more rational and for us to be able to take information in, but people are still feeling that uncertainty, that fear, and feeling alone. So it's really critical that we are thinking about where our teams are, even where our customers are, and reaching out, going back to that whole notion that we've got to step up as leaders and consider how people are feeling. One of the big things of working in a virtual environment is really around meetings. How do we start operating our business in this virtual world? And so I want to suggest that when you think about your teams, I want you to think about meetings. I want you to think about regularly scheduled meetings, daily meetings. What we do every day now and our interactions every day is going to be what's keeping us on task and knowing what people are doing, and that we're all sort of rowing the boat in the same direction. So it's going to be important that you have meetings. I suggest 2 times a day with your team: in the morning to talk about what you're all going to accomplish for the day, in the evening to talk about what got done and what the priorities are for the next day. It's also an opportunity for you to just check in. How are people feeling? And it's allowing you to hold your team accountable to reporting to you where they are so that you know that your business is on track. So reporting and planning just as important in this virtual and new normal of a world, and it's not going to change. Step 4 is around cash flow management. I can't emphasize this enough. If you don't have a cash flow, I want you, one of your number 1 items today is to get off this call and get at least a 13-week cash flow. And it's so important because you see my first bullet here says it's a good time to cut costs and extend credit. When it comes to cutting costs, you have to have the right information for you to be able to make the best decisions for your business. And that starts with the dollars. It starts with, what does your business look like over the next, call it 13 weeks to start? And this is around scenario planning. So what's the best case scenario? What's a mid-case scenario? And what's the worst case scenario? And what would you have to do in your business if the worst case scenario were to come to fruition? You need to have this view so that you can make the best decisions possible. With my clients, I've got a range of clients where, like I said, we're in either shutdown mode or we're in pivot mode or we're in growth mode. But every decision that we make, we have to know what the numbers are. We're inclined to say, in some cases, we need to cut the whole staff. How do we know we need to do that? What are the things that we can preserve or plan for? On the flip side, I've got some people who aren't moving fast enough because they don't have transparency into what the business really looks like. So the first thing you do is make sure you've got your cash flow, you've got clarity into what that looks like for you so you can make best decisions on cutting costs. And in some cases, it's adding costs. In some cases, it's hiring right now, if you're in one of those booming industries. The other thing here is around extending credit. Hopefully you've all done this already. If you haven't, that's another thing to do both personally and for the business, is make sure that today you've got all of the anything that's available to you. You've extended credit, you've worked with any suppliers or partners on what you can do from a payment standpoint, even your mortgage, your rent, any of your utilities, anything like that. Get with your banks and be persistent. I know that it's tough right now. Think about the government programs. If you haven't applied, make sure you apply. I'm not going to get into the details here. I know that the Chamber's done a great job in having great experts who are doing their best to stay on top of that, but make sure that you're applying for those and be persistent. I've already had people say they're so frustrated, they're just, kind of giving up on the process. You cannot do that. Be persistent. Systems are down, delays are there. Make sure that you're applying for what you can, because it's that money that's going to help fund both your teams and your business to be able to continue to thrive. Slow your spending down. What are some of the things you can either slow down or postpone? And I do want to go back for a minute. I have been hearing people saying, I'm just not going to pay my rent, or I'm not going to pay the landlord, or I'm just not going to pay this or that. Remember that how we operate now is a reflection of how people will see us on the other side. So I understand there's tough times, but we've got to pay our suppliers. We've got to pay our partners. If you are unable to, do not just go dark. Do not just hide. Make sure that you're having conversations with them. Make sure that you are in a partnership to help each other the best you can through this. It might feel easier, or even unintentionally easier, to just hide, but the more you can have conversations and the more you can reach out and partner with others about what this can look like for you, it's the ethical, it's about us remaining, to have our integrity. It's really around, it's partnership. We're in this together. Also, opportunity to change your cost structures, right? Even when you think about your team, and I'll talk a little bit about this later, but how do we move some of your team from maybe they were part of your cost structure to more of an opportunity to help you add profit? So perhaps it's taking a team member from someone in the office who's now working more closely with sales to be able to accelerate your selling, or potentially taking somebody who's has some interest and some skill set in marketing and having them now do some of your digital marketing, so in order to get more revenue. So it's really around, potentially shifting those cost structures. And most important is to keep marketing and selling. Do not take your foot off the gas on that. It's more important than ever that you continue to invest where you can in marketing, selling. It's marketing and selling. It's the marketing that you do now that's going to help you get to the other side. Now, your marketing has to change, right? Digital is you've got to be thinking about digital marketing now. And here's another opportunity. You've got time on your hands. How do you learn and grow about digital marketing? There's so much material out there. Learn what it means to have SEO. Learn what it means to have some digital marketing. Take the time now to understand what you need to do to continue the marketing and selling in this environment. And when we talk about marketing, the most important thing about marketing is that your marketing has to shift. I'm going to say right off the bat, 90% of your marketing likely has to shift. And I don't know if you're still seeing some old marketing come through. I'm still getting emails that were likely automated from suppliers, vendors, services, products that perhaps in the past I might be interested in, but they're totally off message. They're not helping me think about my current needs and what I need right now as a consumer to help me in the environment I'm in now. So I guarantee you've got to go back and shift your marketing message. You have to keep marketing. The message has to be different, and it has to be compassionate, right? Our business is not our products and services. It's not. Our business is our customers. Our business are the people that we're serving. And for us to be able to understand what their needs are, we've got to come at it in a compassionate way. We have to do more asking, not telling. We have to do more listening, not talking. So it's really got to be this compassionate nature around where we are today. And we've got to have a sense of urgency, right? What value, what problems can we solve right now? And how do we integrate that into our marketing message? The other thing about marketing, it's more important now than ever to know your numbers. For my clients, anyone who works with me, we track and measure everything. It's more important now than ever. What marketing is working? What marketing doesn't make sense? We talk about it in terms of tracking our 5 ways, the 5 ways on how you grow your profit. And that's the 5-way formula is your number of leads times the conversion rate, how many of those leads you convert to paying customers, that gets you your customers, times how the average dollar sale, what's the average dollar that someone is spending with you, times the number of transactions, so how many times are they buying from you. That gets you your revenue, and then you've got your profit margin to consider, and that gets you your profit. So really know your numbers, be tracking these things. If you want help with that, or you want a tool that can help you track the right numbers in your business so you know what's working, what's not, don't hesitate to reach out. But know your numbers now more than ever. And selling, but we still need to be selling. I've been having a lot of conversations with people lately, and people don't want to sell. Frankly, outside of this environment, I get a lot of, I'm not a salesperson, I don't sell. The reality is we all sell, that's what we do. And in this time, I just want to say, I don't want anyone to feel shamed or embarrassed or unsure about selling your products and services. Now, I say that, you've got to do the right thing. You have to have integrity. Your products have to add value. But if you do the right thing and you believe that your products serve a purpose and add value, it is our responsibility to continue to sell. It is our responsibility to continue to make sure that we have a thriving business, so that we have jobs in our community, so that we are driving our exit from this crisis. To sit back and say now is not the time to sell is not, it's not responsible. Now, again, I say it's about selling with integrity, selling with compassion, selling something that adds value and meets a need. But I want you to make sure that we are still selling. Yes, change the tone, listen more, ask more questions, pivot your product and services to make sure that we're delivering value that's so needed right now. But it's still selling, and sell on purpose. If you do this right and you really sell from heart and sell from compassion, you will come out of this with stronger relationships and partnerships that you hadn't even thought of before. And it will make all the difference in your business, in how you feel as a business owner and a leader, and the influence that you could continue to have coming outside of this. So continue to sell with compassion. And this is about training, retraining. What's your sales process? How are you talking to people? You've really got to do some work here. But this is what's going to get you through. Continue to be selling. Step 7, customer service for repeat business. Keep all existing clients. It's a must. And frankly, that's where the profit is. We already know that to have a customer, a current customer, continue to buy from you or enroll in your services is less expensive than getting a new lead and converting them. So it's really about keeping your existing client base. Your most valuable asset right now is your database, but now it's how are you using your database, and how are you going above and beyond for your clients, especially your A and B clients, your top clients. What deals are you creating for them? You know, think about what can they buy now? What can they buy now that you can deliver to them later? So you get some cash up front, but you know that you're going to deliver the value later. You know, I'm one to say no discounting. You know, I'll never say this again. I'll never say that there's never a time to discount. But in these unprecedented times, it is, what do you need to do to deliver value to those customers that have been loyal to you? And think outside the box. And how are you going to know what they need? Here's how. You want them, you need to ask them, what do they need now? If you haven't called your top customers, if you haven't engaged your customer base to really understand what their needs are, you know, that's an opportunity for you to do right now. It helps to build loyalty. It helps to understand what the needs are so that you can then serve them the best. And something we talk about here at Critical Non-Essentials, this is a little bit about what are those extra things you're doing with your client base. I'll share, I got a package in the mail yesterday at home. It was from someone I had done business with before, and it was a dice game. It was a game that I could play with my family at home. And it was just a little note that said, you know, in case you're going stir crazy, you know, here's something for you to enjoy with your family. It was such a nice gesture, something totally outside of what their products and services are. But we call that sort of a critical non-essential. You better bet that I'm telling everybody about that. You better bet that when the time comes, I'm going to go back and do business with that business. So think about how are you delivering extra value right now in your business with your clients. Step 8, get the most from your people. This goes back to having a plan. How do you turn mindset, turn the fear into focus, right? Your team is feeling that uncertainty, oftentimes, you know, even more so than you even recognize. They're dealing with family situations, the uncertainty of having a job, knowing how they're going to pay their bills. But we need to turn their fear into focus, and that's really around being clear, setting this new standards, setting the new standards for virtual, what are the rules of the game? You know, I've been talking to a lot of people, some business owners, and recently I had a conversation with someone. They were very frustrated with their team working at home. They weren't available when they wanted them to be available. They weren't doing what they expected them to do. And so I had to ask, did you tell them what you expect? Have you set the new norm for how you'll be operating in this virtual world? Have you set the expectations of the communication cadence of what you'll expect from each other? If you haven't, that's the way you're going to get the most from your people. And so I'd ask you to reflect on your accountability and your responsibility there before we move to a place of frustration. Get really clear on how you want your business to operate every day and in this new world. And then mirror what you expect of your team. We've got to be seen as leaders. We have to be seen as people who are focused on the business, who are taking the actions we need to take, who are reporting what's happening, who are making sure that we continue to move down the path even through this crisis so that we all have a business and that our team has jobs on the other side. Cost into profits. Here's what I was talking about your team. How do you reallocate your resources? I've got lots of examples. People are getting creative with how they're using their team. I've got people who have shifted from therapists who are now doing marketing. I've got people who, some of their office team is now selling. So how do you turn those resources, as opposed to cutting, get really clear on what you need, recognize what skills and talents you have within your organization, regardless of their current role, and have them shift to help you through this time in your business. And you will see people more motivated, more connected to the business and to you by giving them this opportunity to make a difference during this time. People want to add value. People want to feel that they have purpose and that they can continue to add value to our community and what's going on. This might take some training and some retraining. And it's also about positive and honest communication. You know, yes, I've talked about reallocating resources, but the truth is, a lot of you are making decisions around having to cut resources or potentially lower some of the salaries within your business. The whole thing here to get the most out of the people is be positive. It doesn't mean that every message is positive, but it means that your messages are honest and timely. So we've got to step up and communicate and just be open and honest. People will appreciate that. You would appreciate that. So think about that when you're operating with your teams. Step 9, build a strong mindset. Before this crisis happened, we all had some level of a routine. Now, maybe it wasn't always a routine that was necessarily intentional. If nothing else, we knew that we would get up every day, shower, get dressed, go to work, interact with people. All of that has been changed. All of that's changed. So you need to create new daily rituals. What you do every day is going to set your mindset, is going to set what you do on a daily basis and how you feel. So this might be starting a gratitude journal and sharing that with your family. A daily ritual might be reading, learning something new, meditating. Whatever that might be, create those daily rituals and be focused on learning and growing. Take this time now to really grow yourself. We will come out of this. You have an opportunity right now, by what you do or don't do, to decide who you are on the other side of this. So take the time for learning and growth. And this is, there's opportunity in crisis, right? Even if you think about economically in general, the economy comes in, it's a cycle. It has seasons, right? If you think about the season we've been in for quite some time, things have been going really well. We've had people spending, our businesses are booming. Think about summer, we've been in summer, think of the warmth of the sun. Typically we move then into fall, where it starts with a small frost, things start to change before we hit winter. Well, we've been thrust right from summer to winter. Now, I talk about seasonality. This isn't an annual cycle. It's usually a 7 to 8 year cycle. And so this happens. That growth curve that we were on inevitably starts to shift even outside of this crisis. The difference now is that we've been thrust into it and it's been accelerated. But there is opportunity in crisis. Just like as we think about planning for those economical seasons where there's opportunity to plan and shift, we have the same thing now. So what opportunities can you find now? Even think about your business. What are some of the craziest ideas that you've had in the past that you thought, that just wouldn't work, I couldn't do that? Now's the time to revisit those. Look for opportunity here, not just the crisis. Focus on small wins each day. That's so important for you to do for yourself and for your team. I encourage you to spend time on the positive by yourself, on the positives with your family, on the positives with your team. Find the wins each day. Some days it'll be tougher than others, but make sure that you're highlighting, even if it is just the weather was beautiful, or I got to spend more time with my child, or perhaps my dog. What are those small wins each day? And just one note on the news, you know, sometimes no news is good news. If watching and listening to the news is not serving you, stop. Stop it. There is so much coming at us. We're just not equipped to be able to decipher both mentally, psychologically, emotionally, everything that's coming at us. If it's not serving you to continue down your path, to hit your goals, to continue down the path of your vision, you know, take it down a notch. So many people are so consumed. And I would just suggest that try to limit, if you have to watch the news, limit it, and try not to get entrenched in it. Easier said than done, but you've got to do it for yourself, for your team, for your business. All right, step 10, this is where planning comes. Plan for the next 90 days. I started this by saying, let's think about this being the next 90 days. Here's the thing, you've got a lot of decisions that have to be made, right? Whether that be how you pivot in your business, or what cost-cutting measure you take, or team changes that you make. You will be feel much more confident about what decisions you have to make, and then making those decisions, and then communicating those decisions if you have a clear plan. So don't stop the planning, you know, and I recognize you might be planning to replan at this point because we don't know everything that's going to happen. But if you can anchor yourself on making sure that not only do you have a 90-day plan, but that you're actively working the plan and pivoting the plan, you will have more confidence and clarity on the decisions that you need to make. Things like, you know, what will you market and sell? How will you pivot your products and services? Lots of decisions now are being made around delivery models and what to charge. There's lots to figure out here. This is around getting clear on the plan over the next 90 days so that you have something that you can go back to, that keeps you focused, that you can communicate to your team, your clients. People need to know what it is you're doing, what their role is in what you're doing, how they access you, how they buy your services. You need to build all that out in your plan. And it's really around first surviving, and then, you know, all to thrive. So I recognize, you know, there's only a handful of industries, only a handful of businesses right now who I would say are in that boom category. And the rest of us are really just trying to figure out, and it is a bit of survival, and that's okay. What's not okay is if you don't have a plan, if you're not thinking through what you need to do. So, you know, in this area, I say work with your coach, or work with a mentor, or work with a business partner, somebody to make sure that you've got a clear plan for the next 90 days to get you through to the other side. And lastly, I do want to mention this, look to invest. So my job as a coach is to continue to push you to think, right? And to think differently, and to think about things that might not seem obvious or even possible. But we will come out of this, and there will be opportunity for you to consider investing. There'll be businesses, you know, to buy on fire sale. There'll be customers that are no longer getting serviced by other businesses who aren't as diligent in making sure that their business is surviving to thrive. There will be opportunities in the stock market. There'll be opportunities with low credit rates, interest rates. Think about where you can invest. You know, this is something, you know, the bright side, it's coming. We will get through this. I mentioned the economic cycles. You know, that this is natural, although it's been sped up for us, it's natural, but we must act now So it's about getting your business to a place where you have clarity on the vision, the goals, the action plan, your cash flow, so that you can make the best decisions now and as we move into the future. So those are my 11 steps. Just to finish up before we go to QA, here's what I want you to do. I mentioned taking notes. List 5 ideas that you need to take action on today. What was some things that you heard about today that triggered for you? Potentially, maybe it's something you need to stop doing, something you need to start doing, or some things that you need to do more of. List at least 5 items now that you can take action on as we hang up. I also want you to think about leveraging the resources available to you. I mentioned this at the start. South Tampa Chamber of Commerce has great information. Continue to leverage that. The other thing I want to offer up is to connect with me. It's an interesting time. If you think about my business and what I do, I help businesses grow. This is what I do. And so for me, I'm more passionate and committed now more than ever because I believe that we've got to continue to keep our businesses thriving for our community, our economy. So I have freed up 5 hours of pro bono work or 5 hours of pro bono coaching per week. And so I would just offer up to anybody on the call, I've sort of cut that up into 20-minute survival brainstorms or a couple of 60-minute strategy sessions. If you are looking for just an outsider's perspective, someone to give you a little bit of guidance, someone to do a little brainstorming with, I'm not sure what to do, please take me up on these opportunities. No strings attached. This is all about making sure I have a very personal accountability to helping the businesses in this community be able to survive and thrive. And this is just one way that I plan on continuing to do that. So those are some ways to reach out. You've got my phone number and my email here. And so the last thing we'll do is just move to any questions or comments. I guess I'd ask 2 things. Use your chat box for any questions that you might have. But also, I would love for you to share, what is one action? What's one thing that you're going to leave here today either doing differently or thinking about differently? If you could share that in the chat box, that also will help others, maybe spark some thinking for them. So let's move to Q&A and what actions you'll be taking or what things you'll be thinking about differently. You can go ahead and use your chat box. Any questions?
Because it is I think, a relatively manageable size group, would you be open to them being able to ask their questions live? That might be a little easier.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So we will go ahead and unmute the group again, just as a best practice. We ask for you to self-mute if you're not speaking, but we encourage you to go ahead, if you do have a question, to unmute yourself and ask those questions, as well as to use your video feature if you're able.
Hi, Rose. This is Kenneth Young. Great talk today. Thank you very much for doing this for us all.
Yeah, thanks. I
So,
appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. So my first question goes back to you were commenting about discounting. I wasn't quite clear whether or not you thought discounting was a good thing to do in these challenging times or not. Can you talk to that a little more or clarify?
Absolutely. Yes. So I think it's around nothing's off the table to help us deliver the value that's needed in the marketplace today. So I think now more than ever, if it's about discounting or creating different types of offers, particularly for your loyal customers, now's the time to do it. Absolutely.
Well, one of the things that I've started doing is rather than discounting, because I think I charge very competitive rates already, is I'm starting to offer clients 4 months, no payments. So I find that is something that hopefully will get us past this crisis. And I'm telling them that, hey, you know, if it turns out it's going to be more than 4 months, I'll just extend it as a way of, you know, helping them out. What are your thoughts on that approach versus
I think
discount?
I think that's a fantastic approach. It is around, you know, having that flexibility and being able to continue to add value and building that loyal base while still getting value for yourself as well. I've seen a few other things, you know, I've got a couple of clients, they're delaying payments, or they're even doing some gift certificates, you know, maybe buy 3 sessions or buy 2 sessions, get 1 free from a gift certificate standpoint. You know, you're getting that, that serves a few purposes actually. It gets you some revenue, and it also gets people thinking about the future. They believe that things will come back, they'll be able to get back to normal and be able to enjoy some of the services and products that they've had before. So I think the number one thing that we can be doing is listening and asking what and how we can serve our customers best, and creating the right deals for them now. It will go a long way. So I think you've done a great job there. Any other questions? Or anything like that to share? Has anybody else done anything creative that has helped them? I've got a couple of comments here. I think you guys can probably see these, but Ben, thank you. Taking the small wins every day is very important. Shannon, going to immediately begin communicating with customers and just being positive and reassure them that everything will be okay and that we're there as a partner. That's really great, Shannon. I mean, a kind word and a gesture goes so far. People are frozen in fear right now. And the more we can step up as leaders and just remember, be your authentic self. We started our businesses, we provide products and services to better people's lives. We have an opportunity now more than ever. We just have to take that opportunity and take that action and step up. So thank you, Shannon. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Subhash from Flames Indian Cuisine. We are doing good actually with the takeouts and delivery, but you know, some of the staff members, they were scared, like they needed 2 weeks break. So I just closed for the restaurant temporarily for 2 weeks. I took them as a concern. So is going to affect any of my business, or like any other ideas you have or something?
In terms of shutting down for 2 weeks?
Yes, we already did from this Monday actually, so.
Yeah, I think the key thing, if you're shutting down, there's 2 main things to focus on. One is continue the engagement with your team. You know, even though you might be shut down and they might not be with you right now, how are you keeping in touch with them? How are you giving them updates on where you are? How are you checking in to see how they're doing? So really keeping that team engagement very high so that they see you as the leader that you are. The second thing is keeping in touch with your clients and marketing.
Okay.
You may have shut down, but don't stop the marketing. You know, shift the message. Make sure people know where you are, what your plans are. Give people a date when you expect to open again. Now, the truth is that date might change, but give people clarity to your plan. Those are the 2, I think, key things as you're in that shutdown mode. And then I guess the third thing is, what can you do right now in your business that you've been putting off, from an operational process, structure, learning something? What can you do right now? This is an opportune time. This is where we need to take those opportunities to really get our business to a place where it's even better than when we went into the crisis. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Rose, this is Rick.
Hi,
I
Rick.
think one of the things for me that's been beneficial during this time is that it has changed my day-to-day stuff. I find that when I know what I'm doing from day to day to day to day, I do what I know I'm supposed to be doing. But this time has been so different. I don't have a usual pattern to fall into. So I'm finding that I'm now doing things more consistently than what I used to do. I've done Facebook Live presentations before, but I would do them for 3 or 4 days and then go wander off and not come back. And so far, I've done 7 weekday presentations in a row. And I'm looking forward to doing a lot more than that. And I think that the reason I'm having that success is because this is a time that is so uncommon that I'm having to recreate myself into what I know I can be.
I think that's great. And I talk about it in terms of, I think in the past we've had maybe habits that we fall into, you know, and some of them are intentional and some of them aren't. But it sounds like, Rick, to me, it's about creating new rituals, right? What are the rituals that we're going to commit to, both from a personal standpoint, those things might be around mindset or our health, but also with our business? Because what we're doing now, particularly in this virtual world, is not going to change. Those things that you're implementing now in your business are going to continue. There might be some things that we're pivoting to that short term, 30, 60, 90 days, but most of the pivots and the things that we're starting to deploy in our own business are going to be opportunities for us to continue. So it's really around thinking about it from what are the rituals that I'm going to start in my daily activity for myself in my business. And it sounds like you've done that. So thank you for sharing that.
So Rose, one of the things you mentioned earlier, sorry, this is Bridget over at the Tampa Garden Club. You had mentioned, you know, to think about marketing, to think ahead, like what does the market actually need? And if you had been thinking that was too crazy, well, this is the time for crazy. And I'm kind of glad to hear you say that, because a crazy person thought that I had been having was that, well, eventually we're all going to still want to come see each other. A lot of my events are very panicked because they're concerned about their guests getting here. So they're moving events out pretty far ahead. But eventually we're going to wake up one morning and they're going to say, hey guys, just kidding. Everything's cool. Let's go ahead and do that. So something that I had considered but thought, oh, that's too crazy, was to go ahead and start working on a marketing campaign for, hey, we all of a sudden have all these freed up dates that I think at some point someone is going to want, because we're going to go from this is not okay, this is not okay, this is not okay, to, oh, we're looking good here. So I'm glad that you said that out loud, because that makes me feel like I'm doing something a little bit less crazy, to think, okay, there is a light at the end of the tunnel and we have to go find that light. We might not necessarily get it handed to us. We got to go get ready for it instead.
I think that's great. I like the way you said that. We've got to find the light. It might not be shining so clearly for us, so go find it. And I think for you, one thing to consider, I like where you're going with that in the dates. And then it's just going to be around, you know, how do you minimize the risk for people? So it's, you know, be flexible on what they can cancel or change. But you better bet that if you can make the right deal with folks now, you know, they're gonna take you up on that. Because here's the other thing, there is money out there. I know it's hard right now. People are making tough decisions. You know, there are some businesses who are shutting down, but there is money out there. There are people still buying for the right value. We still have unmet needs that we as consumers have to fulfill. And so it's all about that compassionate marketing, selling, and getting creative, and really helping minimize the fear and uncertainty that our consumers might have. So I like the path that you're headed down there. And I don't think there's anything that's crazy today. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. That's good to know.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Looking through some of the comments here. Got some offers here. This is another thing, these webinars, make sure that you're using these as networking opportunities. Talk about your business. You know, you leverage the folks, you know, I mentioned this at some point, but creating new partnerships and relationships out of this is going to be one of the greatest opportunities that we didn't anticipate. And so every opportunity that you have to be on a webinar, anything live where you're talking to people, making connections, please take that opportunity. And we need to be there for each other. We have a responsibility to come. We are what's going to take us out of this economic strain. It's the business owners in our community. And so we owe it to each other to help each other, to be there for each other, to support each other's businesses. So use every opportunity like that here. I see some things about ribbon cutting with the chamber. Kelly, looks like you're on that. Anything else before we end for today? All right, so I want to thank you for your time. I want to again thank Kelly and the Chamber of Commerce. It's really fantastic what they are doing to step up for this community. I encourage you to take me up on my offer. If you have anything you want to, 20-minute conversation to run by maybe what you're thinking might be some crazy ideas, or maybe you're not sure how to do a cash flow, or maybe you've got to make some tough team decisions. Please leverage the time that I have available. Just like I said, we have an obligation to each other to support each other during this time. This is why I've offered up this time. So just reach out, phone or email, and I would love to hear from anyone that might have anything that you'd like to talk about, even just some mindset stuff. If you're feeling alone and just not sure what to do or how to think, please reach out. And with that, my portion of the presentation is complete.
Thank you so much, Rose, for joining us today. This was incredibly valuable information. I've been taking a lot of notes. Some of our team members were not able to join us today, so I can't wait to discuss some of these things in our team meeting tomorrow. Quick reminder to the group, Rose's information is currently up on the screen, but we're also going to send you a follow-up email, probably later today or tomorrow, depending on when we get the recording from Zoom, and we'll include all of Rose's information in there for you as well. We will go ahead and leave this portal open though, so for any of you that would like to continue chatting or networking with each other, please feel free to do that. We do have another webinar scheduled for tomorrow, and then we're going to shift a little bit next week. And we have a LinkedIn seminar scheduled for Tuesday, and then we're actually going to have a virtual chamber meeting, so similar to our monthly luncheons next Wednesday. So some different programming scheduled for you next week, but hopefully still just as valuable and impactful for you. But thank you all so much for being here with us today. Please don't hesitate to let me know if there's anything the chamber can be doing for you. Thank you again so much to Rose. This was an incredible presentation, so much great information, and we will leave this portal open for just a little bit longer to allow you guys to continue to network, or in case you have any questions that you'd like to discuss with the group.
Thank you, Rose.
Great job, Rose. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, also quick reminder, you can download the chat. So in the chat, if you press the 3 little dots on the bottom right-hand side, you can save the chat, and that will allow you to have all the information that was shared today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
I don't know if it's politically correct or not, but I've mentioned a couple of times that I do firearms training. Right now, a lot of people have purchased firearms for the very first time. I want to make sure that you're aware that I am doing safety training for anybody who's a first-time firearms owner. I want them to be safe, and I want us to be safe with them having a gun as well.